Alright, here is the second part of this Bigfoot terror story. And I'm going to finish off where I left off at. So, here we go. When they had gathered all the parts and moved them to the family plot, he felt a minor sense of relief being closer to the house. If I was closer to home, yeah, I feel safer. But anyway, they worked quickly and efficiently, and within an hour had the bodies buried together. Carl didn't want to have to go through the ordeal of separating them. If he had to sort through the bits of his mother and sister that were left, it would be the last straw. His ability to control the flood of tears would shatter, and he would be of no use. He would be weak, and he needed to be strong for them, for his dad. Thanks for the help, Mr. Miller. Do you want some lemonade or food? I'm not sure what my mom had in the kitchen. A drink would be great, but I am not really hungry. Carl smiled at the end of the comment. He hadn't been hungry since this morning either. As he walked into the house, he heard Mr. Miller follow close behind. He used the lantern to illuminate the kitchen, then lit a few candles and an oil lamp. He went over to where his father hid his bourbon stash and grabbed a bottle. Here, Carl handed over a bottle and a clean glass. Thanks. The glass was filled 3/4 of the way and swallowed in one healthy swig. Man, I'll just go like this. It'll probably take 2 or 3 swigs for me. Anyway, I need to get going. Want to get home and see my family? I'll tell Jake to come see you soon. And if you need anything, just come into today. Yes, sir. Carl shivered as he watched the man leave. Throughout the day, he felt himself getting colder and colder. John Miller rode with a Colt cocked and ready. Yes, he knows he's in dangerous territory. Always be prepared. With a gun or a knife, but anyway. What he saw tonight will haunt his dreams for a long time to come. He couldn't imagine what Carl was going through. A light breeze swept over him. Upon it came a peculiar smell. He slowed the horse down and took a look around. His eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness. The smell carried with it a scent of copper. He racked his brain as to what it reminded him of. A rustling off to his left caused him to aim his gun. He waited, holding his breath to see what would reveal itself. A moment later, the tall grass separated and revealed a raccoon. He chuckled. Yeah, make sure let it come out first, but if it was a Bigfoot and it wanted to attack you, boom. Anyway, something suddenly grabbed his leg and pulled. He was quickly lifted off of his horse and tossed through the air. His leg ripped from his body. He screamed in agony. Oh, God. Man, this Bigfoot's on a murder mission or something. Good Lordy. The animal came slashing at him with razor-sharp claws. He felt the warmth of his insides as they spilled out of him in the bloody mess. The beast lifted his hand and with a snarl drove it into his chest. John remembered what the coppery smell reminded him of, blood. The animal yanked his spine out through his upper chest. Oh, God. Ooh. Well, when you're dead, you won't be able to feel it anyway, but oh, God. Makes my chest hurt, but anyway. Catching the heart along the way, oh. Before the darkness came, he saw it beat one last time. Carl sat in the kitchen and watched the door with a blanket wrapped around him. At some point, he must have fallen asleep because Agnes the rooster woke him up just before sunrise. A noise outside made him jump. Something scratched at the ground outside. Carl got low to the floor and crawled over to one of the drawers. He reached up and grabbed a knife. I don't know what a knife would do to this Bigfoot that keeps killing people, but it might have you spare some time or whatever. He braced himself as he stood, prepared to fight whatever was on the other side. The scratching noise again, then a sniffle sound. Carl reached for the handle and opened the door. It was his father's horse. He carefully looked around, wary of an area covered in shadow. He slowly approached the horse, and as the sun rose, he saw blood matted in its fur and splattered across the saddle. His father's Winchester still in its holster. He didn't even have time to draw his weapon. Carl dropped the knife and stroked the horse's nose. The tears flowed freely. The sight of blood spattered on the animal in front of him shattered his control. His whole family slaughtered. His dad, now dead, most likely ripped apart like his mother and sister. Carl howled in rage as he held onto the horse. "Good boy, you're a good boy," he said over and over again. Well, I'm glad the horse survived. I hate to see that animal get hurt. But like him, I don't want to see his father hurt either. Hope he somehow survived, but anyway. Jake Miller woke to screaming. He turned over in his bed and hoped his mother would get his little sister to shut up. Several minutes later, the screaming stopped and the stomping began. "Front down steps. Get down here now, young man." Jake sat up outside. The sun had only been up for a couple of hours, and since he didn't have school to worry about, sleep should be allowed. He hated this town too darn. Hey, I wouldn't mind having a little extra sleep too, but anyway. He threw on his shirt and grabbed a pair of work pants, stopping down the stairs to announce his annoyance. He stopped short when he saw his mother crying. "Mom, what's wrong? Your father never came home last night. They just found his horse on the eastern edge of town." Then his mother burst into tears and held tight to his big sister Lisa. "Then what?" he asked. "Deputy Ken just came over and told me a couple of horses returned covered in blood. No sign of their riders. Right now, they think some kind of monster is on the loose. No one is supposed to leave the town limits until they kill it." A sick feeling rose in his stomach. "Where's Dad?" "They found his horse, so where is he?" The look his mother gave him was answer enough. His father had been killed. He didn't know what to do. "Who's going to kill it, Mom?" "All the best trackers are dead now. Jake, just stay in town, okay? Whatever." Jake left the room and went into his father's office. He knew his dad kept an extra gun and ammunition in there. "They just told you not to go." I know he's full of anger, but lordy. After finding it and the bullets, he threw it all in a bag and tossed it over his shoulder. He would go to where they found his father and track the animal himself. He snuck out his window and headed east. After an hour of walking, he came across an area covered in a thick brownish substance. When he bent down to examine it, he recognized its dried blood. A body lay not too far away, missing a leg and both arms, the spine ripped out. Jake recognized his father's hat several feet away from the body, the head still inside. Oh, God, yeah, that'll be a menacing scene to see right there. The mirage contents of his breakfast were on the ground in front of him before he realized he threw it up. Yeah, that would be a sick thing to see. He spared another glance at his father's head and ran after a crow that landed on it and pecked at the milky-colored eye. Oh, God. 3 feet from the head, the reality of the situation hit him and dizziness kicked in. This couldn't be happening. His father had promised him a trip out to Logan's Lake, just the two of them. He jumped when a voice said, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here, kid. Get a move on." Jake ran off before the deputy recognized him. Fat, salty tears stained his face. His friend Carl lived out this way. He didn't know what to do. "Carl, you okay?" Carl looked up, surprised to see the sun high up in the sky. He had been standing there for at least 3 hours. Even the sun had not warmed him. Then he looked over to find his friend Jake, who had an odd expression on his face, something between concern and a scowl. The puffy red eyes did not go unnoticed. "Jake, what are you doing here?" Carl stepped away from the horse. "What happened to you? You're covered in blood and dirt," Jake asked. Carl looked down at his soiled clothes. "I forgot to change after burying my mom and Tori. Did your dad send you here?" Jake stared at the ground. He could barely get the words out. "My dad's dead. Something killed him last night west of here." Sorry, I think it's got my dad too. This was the horse he left on. Got blood on it and his shotgun. Well, let's go hunt it then. We'll get it. Jake's voice rose as he spoke, but the pain in it rested on Carl. He took a good look at his friend. Are you insane? Whatever this thing is, it took out my mom and sister, a hunting party, and your dad within the space of a day. We don't stand a chance. I would listen to your friend Carl if I were you. Be like, probably set up a trap or something, then gun hole in the thing. Anyway, Carl yelled. His voice broke toward the end as he remembered burying his mother and sister. Jake opened his mouth as if about to say something, then shut it. He went over to the porch and sat on the steps. Then what, Carl? You can't stay here on your own. There's going to put you on the orphanage train when it comes through town. And you know what happens then. You'll end up working in some factory in the city. Carl ignored him. He looked toward the west and wondered what they could do. They were too old to be kids and too young to be men. But if they had some help, if a real tracker showed them the way, they might be able to do it. He thought back to his father talking about the Navajo reservation a few miles from their place. At first he had made the family uncomfortable, but his dad had made a deal to supply them with food as long as they left him alone. Carl had gone along on one of the deliveries. They might recognize him. If he told them what happened, they might be willing to help. He figured he had nothing to lose. Jake, I'm going to the Navajo reservation to see if they help. You could come with me or stay here. I don't care. Carl went into the house and grabbed some bread and jerky from the cupboard. He did change his clothes. The clean smell of newly laundered linens would give him away immediately. They needed all the advantages they could get if they stood a chance at hunting this beast. On his way out the door, he grabbed a rag and wrapped the food. Jake stood on the porch, a desperate look on his face. I want to go with you, but I don't have a horse. I'll get one from the pasture. You'll grab the saddle from the barn. Within moments, they had a horse ready and saddle for Jake. Are you sure you want to do this? My dad said the Navajo can be mean, Jake said. Carl shook his head. My dad and them got along. Don't worry about it. He led the way, and within 2 hours they were in Navajo territory. 2 large men appeared before them. Carl noticed Jake shrink back a bit. Carl stopped his horse and waited for the 2 men to approach. His father said something about showing respect. As they neared, he hoped finding this animal and killing it would make him warm again. What do you want? Carl spoke clear and with authority. You knew my father. He helped feed you for the last 7 years. Yesterday something killed my mother and sister by ripping them apart, then stealing their spots. My father went to hunt it and with some other men, and they were all killed. I need your help. The 2 men spoke to one another in their native language. They seemed to be arguing about something. One got angry and turned away. The other stayed and eyed Carl with dark eyes. This thing that attacked your family, do you know what it was? The man asked. No, I don't. Take me to the place where it killed them. Jake sighed. Are we going to go back and forth all day or actually do something? Do you have a better plan, Carl? Asked. He turned away and led them all back to his home. The Navajo inspected the place where his mother and sister were massacred in the light of day. Out the body parts, Carl could tolerate looking at them. Have you heard of Yetosho? The Navajo asked in such a low voice. Carl barely heard him. No, but that sounds like one of your words. Does it translate? It would be big God in your language, more like Bigfoot. Both Carl and the Navajo turned to look at Jake. He had a foot in one of the big God's prints, and it was obvious the print was well over 6 times the size of Jake's. Jake looked back at the man next to him. What's your name? Call me Wolf. That sounds like a good name. Wolf or Lone Wolf. They call me that because I could track anything, but even I would not be stupid enough to track Yetosho. Wolf, tell me about Big God. How do I kill it? Carl asked, his tone level. Wolf laughed. then stopped when he realized Carl meant it. You are barely a man. You cannot kill something like this. He is huge, twice the height of you, and strong with claws so sharp they could cut through anything. You won't know he's there until you're dead. This Indian is wise right here. Anyway, Carl thought about this, but refused to believe it. But if you could, what would be your plan? I will find where it lives and try to slay it while it sleeps. But you will never find his cave. Carl looked at Wolf and wanted to shoot him right then and there. How do you know where it sleeps in his cave? Jake asked. You know where he lives, don't you? You and your people think of him as some god. That's why you don't hunt him. He preys on us and leaves you alone. We're just collateral damage. So you can sleep at night. Whew, man, these boys are getting heated. Yeah, it seems like we won't attack Native Americans because they will leave them alone, but they'll attack us. But anyway, Wolf smiled. Better you than us. Show me where his cave is. You at least owe me that. Wolf sneered. I owe you nothing. Carl shook with anger. Then do it for my father, my mother, and my sister. The smile fell from Wolf's face. Fine, I will show you where he sleeps. But do not expect me to help you. Whatever, let's go. Carl got on his horse and waited for the others. Wolf led the way, stopping hours later, the sun just above the horizon. Over there, the rock outcropping underneath is a cave, Wolf said. He sleeps there. Thanks. Carl motioned his horse forward. Jake followed behind. You are fools riding to your death. You know not of the big god's power. The Native Americans are wise, and if you don't listen to them, then something's going to happen to you. Carl ignored the Navajo and headed for the cave. He would either kill the big god or die trying. He didn't have anything to live for, and no one would miss him but Jake. Jake, are you sure you want to do this? You have a family to think of. Jake brought his horse, even with Carl. This Bigfoot thing killed my dad too. I want to do this. Carl nodded. Okay then. We go find the cave, but I think we're better off waiting until we know it's inside. We could touch to throw off its vision, and animals generally don't like smoke. As soon as we see it, start shooting. Jake looked straight ahead. Sounds like a plan. The teens got off the horses, grabbed the food and guns from the saddlebags, and set up a mini camp. Carl led the horses away from the cave entrance and slapped them on the rear. They both took off in different directions. Alright, I'm going to stop it right here, and we might have to end up doing a part 3. So, stay tuned for that. Have a nice day, everybody.